Hey you guys, just heads up. Unfortunately, due to some scheduling issues, I was not able to get together with my girl Emily this week to do our redrawing of Eric video. So we are gonna have to reschedule and get back to you on that. But I'm very excited for that video, so it's definitely gonna get done. So in the meantime, we about to get technical. So, okay. This is something that basically makes fans and people working in the classical music field alike absolutely cringe. Myself included. A lot of people think that because the word opera is in the title and it is set in an opera house, that Phantom is an opera. Granted, to the untrained ear, it might sound a lot like opera, but that's because Weber is a genius and borrowed elements of the operatic vocal sound to give us the musical. Say it with me now. Musical. It gave it the sound it needed to be appropriate to the setting. Christine is an opera singer. She needs to sound like one. I have said this before. In musical theater, you have what's called character voice. Sometimes they might sound quirky or might have some sort of accent, or they might even sound annoying when they sing as just a part of their character. Christine's character voice just so happens to be legit. And I don't mean Urban Dictionary legit as in awesome. I'm talking about legitimate classical vocal technique, which in the end is awesome. So I've told you why most people come to that conclusion. Now I'm going to tell you why it isn't true. Now, this first reason gets a bit hairy and is a bit of a gray area when it comes to defining operas, but I'll just go ahead. Phantom is not entirely sung. Now, it has a lot of sung conversational lines, which would normally just be spoken, that lead up to the bigger numbers, and in opera, this is what we would call recitative. Again, giving the illusion of opera. But there are spoken lines, which kind of goes against today's general understanding definition of opera. Now, fellow classical nerds, calm the fuck down. I know what you're thinking. This bitch doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. That's not necessarily true. Yes, there are many exceptions to this. I'm trying to turn this into a teaching moment, so calm yourselves. Mozart's The Magic Flute is perhaps one of the most famous operas of all time, containing the ridiculously famous aria sung by the Queen of the Night. This opera has entire spoken scenes, making it almost like the first musical ever. Blasphemy! I can feel your opera elitist blood boiling. However, because it was first of all written in the classical era, and second, musical theater did not exist back then, along with several other defining factors, it is an opera. Other operas that have spoken lines are those such as Carmen, Fidelio, The Thieving Magpie, and many others. But back on track, the biggest official determining factor between opera and musical theater is this. In opera, the music is the driving force of the show. The focus is so heavily on the music and the sound of the vocalists that is why we can sit and listen to and still appreciate a song in a language that we have no idea how to speak. In musical theater, words take priority. They are what further the plot. This is why in opera, vocal ability takes number one priority in the casting process all the time, consistently. And in musical theater, acting ability typically does. It's also why you would say, I want to sing the role of Carmen, versus I want to play the role of Eliza Doolittle. See those technicalities? All this being said, here's where we go back to Phantom. Which is really the driving force of Phantom? Because a full cast of classically trained opera singers are not hired to sing in legit voice 100% of the show, and other things are taking priority at times, the music is no longer the driving force. Meaning, Phantom is a musical. However, there are many other things within Phantom that also betray the norm of an opera. First, all of the actors in Phantom are mic'd. In opera, we do not use microphones. We use the technique that we learn in our training to use resonance and the acoustics of a room to be heard unaided. The actors that perform in Phantom, may have had classical vocal training, in some point in their lives, but they are not necessarily opera singers, meaning you have mastered this technique and do it on the regular. Bringing us back to the driving force argument, I will say, though, that I have seen a couple of Christines that were indeed opera singers, like Megan Pacherno, the principal Christine in the recent US tour of Love Never Dies. Moving on, the next reason doesn't necessarily take away Phantom's opera status, but it would make it difficult to perform like one. The tessitura of the music. Now, anyone not well versed in musical terminology, I know I sound like I'm speaking complete gibberish right now, but let me explain. Tessitura, by definition, is the range within most notes of a vocal part fall. So if it's higher or a little bit lower, basically. Well, for Christine, that's all over the place. With opera as the prime example, singers usually audition for roles that have a tessitura that will give the most aesthetically pleasing sound for their voice, usually staying in one particular area. Andrew Lloyd Webber wrote the role of Christine specifically to show off Sarah Brightman's range, which we hear at a peak of an E6 in the title song and a low of what I believe is an A3 in Wishing Her Somehow Here Again. That all means all of the sopranos that follow her need to sound incredible in both low chest and high head voice. Now, if you have a mic, this isn't that big of a deal, and there's a little room for weakness in one or the other. But like I said, in opera, we do not use microphones. So if you're looking for a soprano that can sing to the limits of both registers, equally strongly enough to pull it off without a microphone, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's a tall order. Next, there are dance numbers in Phantom. Operas do not have dance numbers in which the entire cast participates. This is because we cannot exert the physical strains of dance and still be able to use our technique to sing without a mic. Breath support is everything in classical singing, and dancing will take that away from you. We even have to just carry our bodies and sit and stand in certain positions in order to unleash that sound. So now, that doesn't mean that there is no dancing in opera. Many classical and romantic era operas, there were entire ballet sequences, which Weber so cleverly emulated with his ballet dance sequence during Il Muto. Fun fact, the props that the ballerinas use in that scene are exactly like the ones you commonly see in the ballet sequence for the opera Faust, which was one of the main operas in which Christine was singing in the original novel. I see you, Andrew Lloyd Webber. Any dance number that is ever done in an opera is always performed by the corps de ballet, and it is always a ballet. However, most opera companies cut the ballets in operas nowadays because they not only add length to an already long runtime, but most opera companies do not have a resident corps de ballet anymore, and would have to organize with an entirely separate ballet company to do it. Basically, it's just a huge pain in the ass. Onward! Parts of Phantom are pre-recorded. What? Yes, there are parts of Phantom that are not, in fact, done live, which would never fly in an opera. Much of the overture to Phantom is not done by a live orchestra, partially, I'm assuming due to the size of the orchestra it would take to produce that huge bombastic sound. But it also has to do with the timing of the rising of the chandelier. Another thing that is allegedly pre-recorded, I don't know this for sure, but supposedly Christine's run at the end of the title song. Now, it would make sense, because most of all, most non-operatic sopranos don't have a fucking E6. That super high last note she sings? Yeah, that's fucking hard. Not even all professional operatic sopranos can sustain that note with as much richness for as long as Christine is expected to. 8 beats. That's what's written. It's also, I would think, possible to expect a singer to produce that note every night for a show. Phantom is already a very vocally demanding show, especially for Christine, and if you're hitting that E6 every night, I think there's a good chance you're on track to ruining your voice. You have to be able to rest. The E6s, especially the sustained ones that you'll find in operas, are usually optional, first of all, and most opera productions only run for a couple of weekends and then they're over. Phantom, because it's on Broadway, is running consistently 7 days a week. Principal Christine only takes off, I believe, Tuesdays and Thursdays, where her alternate comes in. I don't know. I would not blame them. I'm not 100% sure. If you do know, let me know. And I don't really know what the protocol would be of how they go about making that recording. But hey, if you know, leave it in the comments, because I love to learn. My personal goal, if I ever do get the chance to play Christine, would be to at least once a week attempt Phantom completely live and unmiked. I say attempt because I've never tried it unmiked, but if you can do it, go big or go home, right? And the most obvious telltale sign that Phantom is a musical. It's on Broadway. So there are some of the reasons why Phantom is not an opera. Thing is, none of this necessarily means it could never meet the requirements of an opera, because it is very close. In fact, in Andrew Lloyd Webber's original score, at the end it literally says "end of opera," suggesting that he may have at some point a plan to take it in a more legit direction. But here's how I would think it could be done. First, cast only professional opera singers and have them sing live using full legit technique without mics. This means that this type of production of Phantom would require a shorter run time, probably, 2 to 3 weekends, or an endless supply of Christines in rotation to go continuously. Second, have all the dancing be done by a separate corps de ballet, and have the chorus sing the music. Third, with the tessitura issue, if it becomes too difficult to find singers that have the range to sing the music as written, or if pieces like Wishing Her Somehow Here Again get so low that it's hard to, hear without a mic, a simple key change in some areas could probably resolve that. Next, at certain times the orchestra might need to calm the fuck down. Going micless, I'm not sure we could keep the power metal guitar in the title song and whatnot, and have a singer still be able to be heard over the orchestra. Finally, have it put on by a professional opera company. They would be able to oversee it so that it would flow and function like a true opera. Looking at you, Metropolitan! Thank you for watching. I hope you found this as informative as I did exhausting. Stay fantastic with a PH, and keep your hand at the level of your eyes. Subscribe!